Nikola Motors has just revealed its master plan to dominate the massive electric semi-truck market in Europe. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some incredible research I've conducted over the past few weeks where I've lined up all the different electric truck manufacturers in Europe to understand exactly how big this market is. And also, I'm going to be reacting to an interview conducted by Gerrit Marx where he explains the strategy between Iveco and Nikola and how they will work together to dominate the European trucking market with a dealership and a production strategy. But as usual, guys, before we get into it, make sure to drop me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. So the first thing we want to address is just how big is the market in Europe for electric semi-trucks. As you can see, Volvo actually dominates this truck market with a 42% market share. But the real thing that people don't understand here is that as of 2021, this market is only around 346 trucks big. Yes, there's a lot of manufacturers like Scania, DAF, and Daimler that have electric trucks in production and also in testing. But right now, the market is essentially untouched. In the US itself, Nikola plans to sell 300 to 500 trucks in 2022. And that's obviously their first year of revenue. And if that is basically the size of the entire European market in 2021, that I think really puts into perspective the massive opportunity ahead of this company. And although even companies like Volvo have hydrogen fuel cell trucks under development, these things are nowhere near production. And as we'll hear from Gerrit Marx in this interview, these Nikola fuel cell trucks are expected to go into full production by the end of next year, which is a very tight timeline and will give again Nikola that first mover advantage in the European market. As for the people that have been saying that there's way too much competition in Europe and Nikola is not going to survive, well, as you can see, the main truck that somebody like Daimler has on the market right now, the e-Actros, is actually just a box truck. So this is not even competing with the Nikola Tre market, which is actually significantly faster growth than the box truck and low duty market, which is exactly why Nikola has a very good strategy lined up with Iveco to dominate and ramp up production in that specific market. As you can see, Scania is also one of the popular European manufacturers that has a battery electric truck on the market. But again, these guys have sold less than 50 units across entire Europe in 2021, which means that these guys have a lot of production and dealership networks to still establish, which again leaves a lot of advantage and room for somebody like Nikola to take over, who already has a big foothold in the American market. Whereas if we look at somebody like DAF, these guys also don't sell trucks in the same market as Nikola. This is actually a sister company to Hyundai, who already have fuel cell trucks on the road in Asia. But as you can see, they only sell these box trucks and these refuse trucks that are essentially small and medium duty only, not more of the large scale heavy duty applications that the Nikola Tre is trying to target. But if I'll be completely honest, none of that is the most significant tailwind that Nikola Motors has going in its favor as they enter Europe. As you can see, that advantage is the range of the Nikola Tre. The Volvo trucks on average have a 300 kilometer range. Something like the DAF, EF, and CF trucks have only a 280 kilometer range, whereas something like the Scania that I just showed you guys only has a 250 kilometer range. To do the math on this, this is roughly a 180-mile range. 300 kilometers equates to 186 miles. And if you guys know anything about the Nikola Tre, you know that that thing has a rated range of 350 miles. Not kilometers, miles. So that right there is the leading factor that is going to drive so many people to buy Nikola trucks over other vehicles. And that right there is one of the reasons why I think Nikola has a good shot at gaining a lot more market share in Europe. But regardless, now let's actually listen to Gerrit Marx and see how he explains Nikola's co-development strategy in Europe with Iveco.
Gerrit, I'd like to know how you intend to commercialize Nikola trucks in Europe. Will this be through a separate and distinct network? Also, are there plans to sell the Nikola Tre under the Iveco brand?
Yeah, let me start with the last question. So the answer is no. The Nikola Tre will be entirely sold under the Nikola brand. It's the Nikola vehicle, and we will be selling this vehicle through our dealer network and jointly in an approach to key accounts across Europe. The servicing is also done in our network in Europe, and therefore the processes and the operations of Iveco are going to support the entire back end of the commercialization of the Nikola Tre trucks. So another important dimension to layer in is, as I mentioned, the battery electric truck is possibly sitting at the price tag that is 3 to 4 times a battery electric diesel truck, and the fuel cell is probably 1 turn higher, no? 4 to 5 times a diesel truck. And I mentioned this yesterday in another session. There's no way a small fleet that operates 20, 30 trucks today in diesel can afford to replace 5 diesel trucks with 5 fuel cell trucks at 5 times the price, or 5 times the cost, or the lease rate, or the exposure, whatever you want to take there. So we've been working diligently with partners on a pay-per-use model. You can also call it long-term rental, all-inclusive, in order to commercialize together with Nikola these vehicles for haulers in and across Europe. I mean, imagine that about 60–70% of the on-road heavy-duty truck freight volume is operated by fleets that have less than 30 trucks. As I mentioned, 30–40 trucks. And in order to drive the adoption of electric trucks, we need to lower the entry barrier to adopt this technology, and hence the whole concept of pay-per-use or long-term rental, all-inclusive, is the way to go. We are pioneering this with our capital team. We are pioneering this together with partners, and we happily will give more details about how we plan to do this and what are the exact next steps around the IAA, maybe during the IAA, or definitely before the year end, because it cannot be. It's stupid to sell trucks for $500,000, cash in subsidies, and then make it a status symbol of your fleet. Right? And then you never buy a second one because there are no more subsidies. This is stupid, and I think we need to think through sustainable business models that make sense for selling, servicing, and for adoption of this technology in the small to medium-sized fleets in particular, but also the large fleets. Otherwise, we are becoming a Europe where all the fleets have several status symbols of electric trucks that somehow work, but are nowhere close to a TCO parity, total cost of ownership parity, to diesel, or come with a slight premium. So we need to work on all hurdles, not just fixing the physics and the chemistry of a truck. We need to also fix the chemistry and the physics of the financial and the rental model around those. Otherwise, these trucks will only come at very low volumes into the market, and then politicians are wondering, why don't we achieve our CO2 targets? So we need to create a new business system around those vehicles. The world will change, and these vehicles will change the world.
Wow, interesting viewpoint. Michael, last question for you, and this is about numbers.
I think Garrett mentions an absolutely fantastic point here. Nikola's job and edge is in combining and making sure all the stakeholders can work together to create a good business model around electric semi-trucks. It's not just about improving the technology and making it nice and better than all the other competitors, but it's about making sure that the customer experience is there for these trucks and that they can get the actual use case out of these trucks instead of just having them as a marketing stunt, which is actually probably what a lot of the traditional OEMs are doing right now, like Volvo and Daimler. They're probably just selling these trucks right now up front to give these fleets some interest in the EV market. But for the long-term sustainability of the electric semi-truck market, we need better ecosystem solutions where people are selling bundled packages. Nikola is already doing this with the hydrogen fuel cell strategy in America, and obviously Iveco is going to be taking over that in Europe. And obviously Nikola is probably going to be paying some royalties to Iveco, because obviously it's not going to be completely free for somebody like Iveco to be providing all this research and dealership network to Nikola. But at the end of the day, the market opportunity is just so big that even Iveco realizes that to take on the risk is too big for a traditional OEM. Instead, they need to shift the risk to a specified traditional company that is designed and purpose-built to tackle the EV market. And that is exactly what this Iveco and Nikola partnership is all about. But as usual, guys, make sure to drop me a thumbs up if you found some value from this video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought of what Garrett Mark said, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.